Hey folks, how's everybody doing? I'm going to do a video here about the claw grip from appendix and how we can transfer that over to the hip position. And I've stopped teaching any differences really between the appendix draw and the strong side hip draw. You might think that's crazy or something, but I don't teach any differences. I use all the same basic techniques, and only some very small subtle changes do I do. At the end of this video, I'll tell you what those little changes are, and they're just simply some small tips that might make your hip draw that little bit faster. Most guys, if you're drawing, let's say 10 yards A zone in under 1.5 and 10 yards instead of saying 5 yards or 3 yards or 7 yards. I like to have a little bit more accuracy requirement to my single shot draw kind of thing. That way that someone's coming up, they have to build or just build drill. If you can do a build drill from concealment in less than 3 seconds, probably a good yeah, that'd be a good run for most people. If you can do a build drill 7 yards, 6 shots in the A zone in less than 3 seconds from concealment, you're fairly proficient shooter, or really proficient. 2 seconds is the high standard. That's the kind of the elite level standard, and even that gets to be pretty simple once you develop your index points and your draw and you get it down to where you want it. And that's where this thing kind of unraveled for me, is once I got really good at appendix, like I switched from hip carry to appendix carry, and then I really went balls deep into appendix and got really good at the draw to where, you know, I can appendix draw just as fast as pretty much anybody out there. Once I did that, I went back to the hip then, because I started teaching people, giving private lessons, and a lot of those people carried from the hip. So I'm like, shit, I need to go back to the hip and make sure that I can give them just as many pointers as I can give somebody with appendix. So I started drawing from the hip and going, and I'm like, shit, I can draw just as fast and marry and do all the stuff just as fast from the hip as I can from appendix pretty much. Now, if we're going raw speed as fast as I can go into like a 3-yard target, you know, the accuracy requirements aren't there. You know, from 3-yard target, I can just throw the gun up and use the RMR hood or use the general reference of the gun and bang an A zone at 3 yards in, I don't know, 0.6, 0.7 from appendix. I mean, it's like, boom. As soon as you put your hands on the gun's up. Just from index points, just from proprioceptive index, you can come up and bang in literally no time whatsoever. So when I started shooting, you know, trying some one-shot draws and even build drills from hip, I'm like, shit, I can go just as fast. But I realized that I'm doing some things a little bit differently, and that's where the claw grip comes in. I've written down a few reasons why I think the claw grip is superior in all ways. The only time I believe that the full firing grip or the master grip should be used is when your holster is far enough away from your body that you do not have to dig your hand down in. And so many guys say, you know, they use the full master grip or whatever, but their draw isn't quite as fast as the guys that use the claw grip from appendix. And a lot of times you'll see guys lean back and dig that thumb in there from the appendix draw, and that's exactly what they're doing. Well, nowadays, you know, the holsters and stuff are so good that gun is super tight to us. So, and for me, I have big hip bones. For me to dig my hand back there, it's just a non-starter. And I used to do it like that because I was told, gotta get that full master grip. And I just don't believe that anymore. Once I started questioning all this shit and experimenting for myself, my game went to a new level. So, why is it better? Well, the master grip's hard to get and it's slower. That's just it. And if you're gonna say that the full master grip offers more control over the gun, maybe a couple percent. But I'd be real hard pressed to have somebody jerk this gun out of my hand compared to this. If you notice, that's not a whole lot of difference. Here, this is my master grip when I get the gun out. If I'm going to marry, I need this thumb up out of the way so I can get on the gun. Here to here is literally nothing. So that argument doesn't really work. And then the second thing that I think is really good about the claw grip is that I can adjust so nicely my micro adjustments as I'm getting the gun out and coming up. If I didn't get the perfect grip on it, I can adjust so easily with this claw grip. The third thing is, with the claw grip, I now have this entire huge billboard to get behind. And then the fourth thing is, when you're on the claw grip, you're extremely high on the gun, and when you force your thumb down around, you have zero room to get any higher on that pistol. The fifth thing is, it's less movement. You don't have to move around. And one other little goofy thing is, your rear sight is more likely to snag garment than your thumb. So your thumb kind of has this rounded edge. If the garment would happen to come on there, it's just a little less likely to snag. So let's talk about, those are the reasons I think the claw grip is superior. It's harder to get and it's slower is the number one reason. And the fact that I have just as much control over this gun here as I do there, that should be all the argument I need. But I'm fine with anybody who does the master grip. I just think that you should experiment and try with the claw. The couple things that I do different to get a fast hip draw is, once the gun comes out, so if you have a problem with snagging of material, or especially the butt of the gun snagging your clothes, so let's say you kind of move your garment like this and the butt of the gun snags, or you kind of come up with some kind of work like that, what I recommend to people is to come back and then move the gun slightly forward. The second it clears holster, to just pop it forward just that little bit, and that kind of relieves you from worrying about your garment getting any kind of snag action going on. So just that little bit of forward motion, and then that puts us here. We're ready to marry, and from here out is the exact same thing as my appendix draw. Nothing changes, but a smooth marry is probably one of the most important parts of your draw. To be able to marry both hands smoothly is huge. That's the second thing that I tell people is these little tips is you got to get that marry process smoothed out, and that the only way you can do that is by finding the index points and repping it out. Now, another thing is, if you do this, okay, we don't want to do that. And a lot of guys, to get that master grip, you got to shove that thumb behind, right? We do not want to roll this way. Why? Think of a swinger in USPSA, swinging target. You're essentially taking a stationary target and moving yourself like a swinger. So you want to be here, but in the process of getting the gun out, and then you just got all this. That's swingers are hard to shoot for a reason. That's something we don't want to do. So instead of that, if you carry it 4 o'clock or further around the back, and you do have to get some help to move that garment, I suggest two things. One thing is, when you come around with your support hand, to hook your thumb and hook that garment also with the right hand, or with your gun hand. So instead of just doing it all with one hand, come around, hook, and then boom, down onto your gun if it's further back. If it's 3 o'clock or whatever, you usually don't have to do that. But instead of leaning this way, lean a little bit forward. Okay, I'd rather see somebody lean a little bit forward, move that garment and come out, than lean sideways. So if you don't have a problem with that, don't do either one. Just stay straight up. But if you do have a problem with leaning to the side, one, the claw grip is going to fix that probably, and two, if you still can't, lean a little bit forward. Three, use that thumb of the firing hand to kind of help swooping motion backing onto the gun, and then boom, you're coming out with that claw grip money. Another thing that I tell people is, and this might be the most important, instead of, okay, we're going to draw rolling into motion because you're so used to doing this thing, instead of that roll into motion, we throw this arm straight back like you're elbowing somebody behind you, like, and think of popping into motion. So in the appendix draw video, we talked about acting like you touched a hot stove, bah, bang into motion. Same type of thing, but just pop, and you can even shrug your shoulders a little bit to help with that garment moving, and just kind of boom, boom, boom. That's all it is. Pop, pop. You know what I'm saying? So that little pop into motion will allow you to jerk that gun up out, then you pull a little bit forward, you marry, you go on your business. So pretty simple stuff. Come out, get on the gun. Not very hard.